If there's one thing people love doing, it is traveling. Most of us even wish we could live in another country because, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? Well, think again. If you are ever considering living in Sweden, here are my top 10 most negative things about living in Sweden. Number 1. Housing shortages. 255 out of 290 municipalities in Sweden report that they are having housing shortages. This makes up 88% of Sweden. This figure is unlikely to go down anytime soon, especially not with Sweden's open immigration policy. Despite building new homes, not only are they unaffordable by your average Joe, they are also targeting a certain age group that has to meet a certain criteria before being eligible. In other words, you see newspapers saying we are building and expanding to tackle this housing issue. But what they're actually saying is that we are just targeting certain people, the kind of people that make us money. So you're left with just 3 options to solve this problem. 1. You buy, but in order to buy, you need to have dough. 2. You search privately and you pay sky-high rental fees. 3. You live in with someone, for instance, you rent a room. Number 2. Points system. Sweden loves to work at the turtle pace, and like Germany, Sweden is obsessed with paperwork and systematic administration. For example, if you were looking to rent an apartment or a house from a public organization such as ÖBO, bearing in mind that each municipality has its own public organization, you will still need to be in a queue for years and acquire what they call queuing points. So, for example, let's say you want to live in Stockholm and rent there, you need to place yourself in a long queue and acquire queuing points. And if you want to move from Stockholm to another city, you need to place yourself in a queue again for that municipality. Oh yeah. Sometimes, even with the right amount of points, your circumstances may deem you ineligible. No one really knows how it works, not even the public organization itself, because according to them, selection of candidates are made at random, just like a draw in the hat. Number 3. Lousy National Health Service. According to Sweden's Health and Social Care's website, in larger cities such as Stockholm and Göteborg, GP surgeries tend to have considerably higher patient complaint rates than smaller cities such as Örebro. When I say complaint, I'm talking medical negligence or patient negligence. The statistics released in 2016 show that Sweden's Health and Social Care Board received 7,087 complaints, of which 58.8% have been dealt with, and the rest, well, they've probably been stacked up to the following year's complaints. To make things better, each visit to the GP surgery costs money. Not only are all Swedish people taxed at more or less 33.5% of their monthly income, depending on where you live of course, you have to pay for things like a GP prescription. But the problem is that you can't just walk into your GP surgery and ask to speak with someone. Oh no. You need to register yourself, phone up and book an appointment to speak with a nurse. The nurse calls you back and then you explain what's wrong with you. So, if you've bashed your head open and you're losing a lot of blood, you'd probably get told to take Alvedon and sleep it off. And to add insult to injury, you'd get charged for that advice. I'm just kidding, of course, you'd go to the ER. But what I'm trying to say is that you would really have to exaggerate your symptoms in order to get medical attention. Honestly. And if you want medicine, you have to say which medicine you want, so he or she can prescribe it to you at a fixed rate of 80 krona. So get Googling your symptoms and be good at it, so you know which medicine you want before the nurse calls you. And if you get the wrong medicine and have some weird reaction to it, well, that's your own fault, and you should discontinue its use and then call them up again and tell them that you had some allergic reaction to it. But this time, try to be more careful with how you explain your symptoms so you can get the right prescription over the phone. Number 4. Exposed personal identification. Every Swedish person is issued with their own unique 4-digit code which comes after their date of birth. This is known as personal identity number. Every Swedish person's details can be found on the internet, like how old they are, where they live, who they live with, how long they've lived there, what they do for a living, and area income. But the 4-digit code, well, that's kept private because that's just too personal to share. It is nearly impossible to legally exist in Sweden and hide your personal information from people. So, If someone cuts in front of me in their car and I take the registration number, I could probably do a better job than Sherlock Holmes by tracking them down and sending them a stronger worded letter. Number 5. No Swedish ID, no service. Yes, that's right. Sweden likes to keep things Swedish. If you've received a package and the mailman left you a slip to go and collect it and you don't present a Swedish ID such as a Swedish passport or a Swedish driving license upon collection, then I'm afraid you can't collect your package even if your name and date of birth appears on the package. This is because Sweden's post office uses your personal identification number to register on the computer that you, the intended recipient, have collected the item personally. This way they avoid complaints and make sure that the right person has collected the item. This is at least the thinking behind it. That sounds quite smart, right? But here is the bizarre part. In fact, anyone can collect your item as long as they've acquired your Swedish ID. And your signature on the slip, well, that can be a fake one because they never check it. They don't check your face either because they're not interested in it. They just want a Swedish ID which they can feed into their Swedish system. Swedish identity theft is a massive problem today, and it seems that Sweden is doing a very poor job in tackling this issue. Number 6. No real HR at work. Put simply, that if you are not with a trade union party, then you are not protected by what they call the collective agreement. This is a contract drafted and agreed by the members of said trade union party. The agreement outlines things like minimum wage, salaries, and certain privileges. Of course, there are many trade unions, and depending which one you go with, that's the pay and privileges you tend to get. So you need to be smart about it. You need to do your research. Trade union is huge in Sweden, and if you are not with a trade union, then your employment rights, salary increases, and so on are unprotected, and you appear to be very weak before your employer. Yes, there are of course employment rights, but being with a trade union seems to be much better. However, despite paying a high monthly membership fee, they hardly do anything for you. You're just buying insurance, so they can do whatever they promise to do, but never really do it. It's great. Number 7. Benefits. If you are European and have moved to Sweden and are unemployed, then you are not entitled to receive any help from the Swedish government, even if you have proof of taxes that you have paid in another European country. The general criteria are those: 1. You should work in Sweden for at least 1 day with pay so your benefits can be assessed. And 2. You should be enrolled as unemployed with 0 assets to be eligible for benefits. The way the benefits system works in Sweden is extremely complicated, and each case is looked at based on its own merits and can take so much time before a decision is made. It is therefore very wise to get professional help on finding a job quickly, because it is likely that you will find a job much quicker than getting a decision for benefits. Number 8. Social class and ethnic divisions. If there is one thing obvious in Sweden, it is that each area in a municipality is very clearly divided between the following ethnicities: pure Swedish, mixed race, and the others. It never used to be like this, but with the high flow of non-European immigration, Sweden has become very divided thanks to how the state has allocated those non-European immigrants. This is where things start to become very intense, and the nation gets very divided and angry to the point where no one even speaks up about it anymore because it is such a touchy subject. Remember how I said that there are housing shortages and a difficult benefit system? Well, priority is always given to non-European immigrants because they're the ones who need help the most apparently. They get everything for free while the taxpayer suffers. When I moved back to Sweden from the UK, I got 0 help from the government because I was not entitled to it. This is because whilst I have worked in Europe, I have not worked in Sweden, so my benefits could not be assessed despite being Swedish and having paid my taxes in another European country with proof. I would have gotten more help if I was an asylum seeker. The current system in place is extremely unfair. Number 9. Swedes can't speak English. This might come as a shock to you, but of course I am speaking generally here. Not every Swedish person is incapable of speaking English, but those that say they can, frankly do a terrible job at it and speak a language often referred to by the public as Swinglish. This is a language which is understood only by beginners or part Swedish-speaking people. I've heard so many Swedish people speaking English to native English speakers, and if I could only speak English, I would not have understood what they meant. Let's put this into context. What do you understand by this sentence? You need to go to Arbetsförmedlingen and then ask them to help you inskriva dig so a-kassa can give you money. Alright, let's translate this. You need to go to the job center, also known as Arbetsförmedlingen, so they can register you as unemployed, a term often used by them as inskrivning. Once your circumstances are assessed by them, they will then inform the benefits department, also known as a-kassa, of your unemployment. Your eligibility for benefits will potentially be assessed by a-kassa according to your circumstances. Now that is proper English. Number 10. Extremely awkward and private people. Now I'm talking about the majority. Now not all of Swedish people live their life the Swedish way. But what does it mean to live your life the Swedish way? It means that you mind your own business and I will mind my own, and you and I don't speak or look into each other's eyes unless we absolutely have to. The exception to this rule is that if we are at work, if we are friends, or if we are extremely drunk. Swedish people are really bad at talking to each other. They almost don't believe in it. Like if I were to ask you for directions, a typical Swedish person may just tell you to use the GPS on your phone or give you directions and then tell you that you should have planned your route better before you left your home. Everything you say to a stranger or someone you just met is also taken very literally. You can't joke or be sarcastic because it would cause error 404. I once joked about flying a Boeing commercial airplane because the pilot wanted to go to the toilet, and the reaction I got was, "Really? But you're not qualified, so how did you do it?" So of course I had to explain that I was joking. This is it, guys, so thank you for watching, and if you've liked this video then please subscribe to my channel.